Hello and welcome to the latest episode of the Brass Junkies. I am your host, Andrew Hitz, and I am joined by my co-host, Lance LaDuke. Lance, how are you?
I'm very excited. I'm excited about this interview.
Yeah, she's awesome. We just hung up with Marianne Craig, and she's done so much, and she's been so important, and she's also super interesting and awesome. Like, she checks all of the boxes for a great interview. What a thoughtful human.
Mm-hmm. And I'm partial about her because she represents the Euphonium in a way at a time that impacted me greatly, and so I was very grateful that she agreed to come on here so we could talk about her story, and that I don't know that her name is as known as it should be.
Yeah.
And part of that reason, which comes out in the thing, is that she's just too busy working on the next thing.
Yeah.
To worry about the accolades, and so fortunately, you'll hear Deanna Swoboda did an interview with her on the ITEA website, and so she's not forgotten, and thank goodness, because she's an amazing. Well, and she's hilarious is the other thing. She's just really funny and down to earth, and she's just no BS.
Yeah, it's been a while since we had someone funny on the podcast. And yes, I'm acknowledging that both of us are on every one. I have a not funny public service announcement, Lance.
Okay. All right.
I 3 weeks ago, I got my first colonoscopy. They recently lowered the age from 50 to 45 is the new recommended age.
Did you do it yourself, or did you go to
I did. That's like cheapest way possible to do. No, I did not do it myself.
Okay.
But I waited until I was 46 because, why not? Well, long story short is I had one polyp removed, and they did the biopsy, and it was not cancer, but it was precancerous.
Uh-oh.
Which meant that it could have turned into cancer within a couple of years. So I'm feeling very grateful that they lowered the age from 50 to 45. And I'm also feeling grateful. I actually saw, there was a tweet from somebody that I saw who's in my circles, and that inspired me to just kind of like follow through and to get it done. Because I promise you, I did not say the recommended age is 45, but I'm not going to do that. I was just like, oh yeah, I should do that. It's like... And then I just, what's easier than doing that is not doing that, right? Mm-hmm. And so I'm very grateful that they lowered the age. I'm grateful that I saw that tweet. I'm grateful that I did the thing. The procedure was so easy, it was laughable. They just they start putting you under. You feel real nice for like 2 seconds, and then I came to, and then they said, okay, you're all good. And then I said, you already did it. I had no idea that it had happened. I mean, that's how.
Yeah, same experience I had.
Yeah. So please follow the guidelines for mammograms, for colonoscopies, for whatever. Know your family history. Some people, depending on your family history, you might be recommended way earlier than 45. So yeah, that's my PSA is, follow the guidelines. So
that's good.
I'm glad that I did. So there you go.
I'm glad you did too.
How about you would have had a couple years. It'd been fine. So, anyway, let us, thank you to everybody who's a Patreon patron. The bonus episode was really good. She told a quality Harvey Phillips story, which about like being at a bar, and about how he did something that I'm not sure how the physics worked out actually on that. But anyway, and then she told a good story about a time when she played a gig with a roll of toilet paper under her chair, which was visible from the audience. So, but I've said too much. But you can go to patreon.com/thebrassjunkies. And you can become a Patreon patron of the show and gain access to a lot of bonus episodes with a lot of people, including Marianne Craig. Without further ado, let us get to the conversation that we had with euphonium player and conductor Marianne Craig.
Hey, thanks for watching. If you want to see more content by the Brass Junkies, just click on the like and subscribe button. You'll have an opportunity to see some of the greatest brass players in the world, and Andrew and me.
And today on the Brass Junkies, we are joined by a world-class euphoniumist and also Mary Ann Craig. No, I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding.
See you later.
See, I was trying to say something nice about Lance, and it came out wrong. I don't say nice things about Lance that often.
Yeah, I understand.
But I always do when he deserves it. So, Mary Ann Craig is a conductor. She is a euphonium player. She is she's actually very tech savvy. She has a side hustle, helping people with getting onto Zoom calls. No, she is a woman with so many talents that I don't know where to begin. So, hello, Mary Ann. Thank you for joining us.
Well, hello, Andrew, and hello, Lance. It's a treat to be on this podcast today. I appreciate the invitation, and I will try to be professional.
Oh, well, that'll make one of us.
That's like playing, like sitting in with a big band and intentionally trying to play with like Prokofiev weight and articulations. It's like you're gonna stick out like a sore thumb.
I get it.
Just roll with it.
It was like one time when I was teaching public school that even though I was the instrumental music teacher, I asked to go to the American Choral Directors National Association meeting because it was in St. Louis and I wanted to go to St. Louis. And so I sat in on a reading session of all these choral directors and I sang in a monotone quite loudly just because I thought,
how'd that go?
Nobody knew me. And so it felt great. I was quite young in the profession.
See, now imagine that conference now because you'd be wearing a mask, so then no one would even know what you looked like.
It was you. Yeah,
right?
That's right.
Yeah, I think that'd be good. And a hat.
You have done so much in your career that I don't know where to start. Lance, where should we start? We could have figured this out ahead of time, but we could just go in so many different directions. We're going to run out of time, like legitimately run out of time quickly because of all the... She's gone deep in a bunch of different directions professionally, and so I just don't know where to start.
Well, and now philanthropically, you've started some very cool programs, and I don't know how many people know, but you endow the tuba chair in the Pittsburgh Symphony as well, which is a pretty amazing thing. So, believe it or not, this is ostensibly about brass playing, so let's pretend to be interested in the euphonium for a while. So was the euphonium your first instrument?
It was indeed. It was, I didn't realize that was unusual at the time, and it was the summer right after second grade, so I wasn't as tall as I am now. And that was my first instrument. My father, who was when he retired, he was a bank president of an independent bank. But when he was first working at the bank many years before, he used to drive the bus for the fireman's band, the local fireman's band in the evenings after work. And he didn't know much about music, but he knew that he loved the counter melodies that the baritone horn had in the marches. And the local shoe store fellow was in the band, and he was getting ready to not be in the band anymore and was selling his baritone horn. So my dad bought that and brought it home in this old wooden case that had chips of I guess it was wood that was falling off of it, and it was so heavy between that horn and that case. But after my first lesson, which was, the school was about a mile away from my home, I said I would be walking home because it was a very safe town. And so I carried this instrument at the age of 7 all the way through town and had to set it down a multitude of times. And that eventually got home after quite a long time. And that's right what I started on. I never played trumpet or kazoo or anything else before that. And so that actually meant I learned to read bass clef right off the bat too. So, and I always was having lessons at school. Of course, all the kids had lessons in groups, but since I was the only baritone horn player, then I got my own lesson. And then the instrumental music teacher lived probably 300 steps from my home. So then as I got older, I took private lessons in his home up through ninth grade. So that's the long answer to, yeah, I started on baritone horn. Bye.
And what town? Where?
We're out of time. Thank you. That was really riveting.
Where was this?
Sandy Lake, Pennsylvania, which is halfway between Pittsburgh and Erie, and it's about half hour from the Ohio border as well. Okay. So it's a small town, 800 people at the time, and very close to 5 universities. We were kind of in the hub of that, and I didn't go to any of those universities, but Sandy Lake, Pennsylvania, and my dad was so proud of that town, and he said, if you ever get to be well known, don't ever say you're from Pittsburgh. Say you're from Sandy Lake, Pennsylvania. And it felt really cool. Once I was a guest artist in residence at Memorial University in Newfoundland. And it was, I had been different foreign, well, I guess Canada's a foreign country, but just being there and having masterclass with 8 of their euphonium majors and just my dad's thought came to mind. And so it just like, where are you from? Sandy Lake, Pennsylvania. And even on my business card now, the back of it said, just a little kid with a passion for music, ... from Sandy Lake, Pennsylvania. So cool. It's near and dear to my heart. Great people, great exposure to musicians that you wouldn't even think that would be in such a small town. But the church that we went to had terrific music in this small town. And this lady, well, maybe I'm saying more than you want. Do you want me to?
No, this is awesome.
Okay.
This is great.
Okay, so this lady in town, her name was Helen Carpenter, and she was a beautiful singer, just a beautiful singer with so much passion for music. And sometimes I accompanied her on the piano, and you'd never know what she was going to do. She might hang on longer somewhere. She might, whatever it was, it just touched my soul. And so I used to think that, if you get a chance to play a solo somewhere, it should be fast and showy. I was 9 years old or 10 years old. But when I heard her sing, it just touched my soul and really transferred that passion for music to me, because I remember the first time that I was asked to play a solo in church, and I got the book of Clay Smith solos out that were all triple tonguing and just really showy, and I played The Satellite. I think that's The Satellite. There's another one in there called anyway, but nothing like triple tonguing in church. It really got people into the praying mood. And so but I was pretty young. I think I was about 6th grade at that time, but I love the passion then the article that appeared in the ITEA journal. I mentioned Helen Carpenter specifically because many places where I go to conduct, people will say that you can feel that passion for the music, and that's my goal, is to get it out of the musicians in the band or the wind ensemble or the orchestra. So, but that's thanks to a very special lady that I had exposure to from 7th grade through all the rest of my high school. And it gets me right here, because it really was first time that I realized that how much feeling you could have from music. And I remember accompanying her once, and she was probably a foot behind me, and the way that she breathed, that's the first time I thought she was sucking all the air out of the church, because you could just feel it. It was energy, and I talk to God. Yeah, I'm not a singer, but anyway, it was really cool. I just gave myself chills while I was thinking of it. And how long ago was that? I'm 93 now, so I was 7 then. No, anyway.
Well, you have been to a choral convention, so you have some credentials there.
I do have some credentials, yeah.
So if you were accompanying her when did you start playing piano?
One day when my sister was sick and I was in first grade, and my mother made me go to take a lesson in her place. so that was when I started, Mrs. Franey. And so obviously that was a big help to have started piano in first grade, so that by the time I got to the end of second grade, at least I knew a little bit regarding notes. And
were your parents musical, or they just understood that this was an important thing?
My mother played violin through high school and college, and she would. And my dad said he took one lesson on the flute, and he decided he'd rather swing a baseball bat, so that was his exposure. But he sang in the church choir, and my mom played piano as well. But I can so much remember her being in the kitchen, which was the opposite end of the house, and I'd be practicing at the piano, and she would say, "That's F sharp," or "That's B flat," or count whatever. And then with always, when I first started the baritone horn lessons, Mom would sit at the music stand with a pencil and tap right on that music stand, so that the tempo was always there, and she didn't wait for me if I got it wrong. We had to go back over it. We had to practice everything 5 times each day, each piece 5 times each day. Now for me, I played the euphonium as much, baritone, whatever, as much as I loved doing that. Piano was a different story. I didn't love it, but thank goodness my mom made me do it, because if anybody would come to me that wants to be a music major in college, any parents would say, "What can we do to be best prepared for college?" And let's take piano. Yeah. Learn the piano.
And when did you pick up conducting? It's your kind of you've done so many things in so many domains. Like when did that come along?
Right. Well, I loved conducting class in college, and
where did you go to college?
My undergrad was Baldwin. It's called Baldwin Wallace University now. It was Baldwin Wallace College then. It's conservatory, and Frank Battisti was there for a couple of years before he went to New England, and Frank had brought in Frederick Fennell for workshops, and then he selected 4 of us to conduct in a workshop with Frederick Fennell, and that was, I just gave myself another chill. Boy, I should get out of the refrigerator. But anyway, so just seeing the passion that Frederick Fennell had conducting, of course, Lincolnshire Posy and so forth. So, but then I did the 8 years of public school teaching. And so, yes, it was junior high and a couple of years of elementary. And so, but I took a job at a small liberal arts college in Albany, New York for my first gig out of Indiana University, Bloomington, when I had gotten my doctorate. And that involved, it wasn't the major part, it was a small, I said small college, but it was, I conducted the band, but it wasn't a major focus of that. And then when the opportunity came for Montclair State University, I had soloed with their band several times when Don Butterfield was conducting some years before. And I had thought this would be an ideal place to teach because there's so much potential in New Jersey that I really felt wasn't getting tapped, because I really felt that the greatest export at that time from New Jersey was their high school seniors. So, so that gig was some conducting of the band, and then some teaching of euphonium lessons and some music ed classes. And then as I was there, the band grew so that by about the third year needed to start a wind ensemble. And so both of those were taking off. And then the recruiting was a challenge at first there, because you want to just go a little, you're always searching for students that are a little stronger, a little stronger, a little stronger. And these were great kids there, even from the start, because they really wanted to be good. And all I cared for them was to try to be the best of to work to the best of their ability. So if through a recruiting process, by about the 5th year, we were getting some pretty, while we had some really good players there initially, we were getting more and more really fine players. And then you get better and better. And then I remember, so, and while I was, where do I go this way? While I was there, the opportunity came for me after about 3 years of being there to do guest conducting in Russia, because a colleague of mine, I feel like I'm talking too much.
Well, you're being
the point.
You're being interviewed.
Okay. Yeah. Okay, never mind.
It's not like we're sitting in a funeral, like, like, oh, go for it.
Yeah. Well, you can tell me to stop.
Well, we will.
Okay.
Keep going.
Okay. Yeah. Well, I saw Lance kind of nod off there a little bit ago.
No.
I'm just
it's an apnea thing.
Okay. So
Lance,
anyway,
is she ever going to stop talking, Lance, or is she just going to just keep?
Yeah. Well, so anyway, but early on in that first 3 years, I was selecting literature that they could sound really, really quite good at, and people were hearing it. And just, so it was me having the opportunity to conduct and explore and see the kids get excited about the music. And then as it was getting stronger the whole way through the ensemble, getting stronger and stronger, then there were just chills happening, and there was a lot of feeling and a lot of really hard work going from the students. And for me, then having the opportunity to conduct to them and see them grow, and so I don't even know what the question was, but that's when I really got into the
color, but
yeah, blue. I wore it today, and I also have these blue glasses.
I know those are
on.
cool glasses.
Those are cool glasses.
Well, you can wear them next time I see you.
I think mine are blue. Yeah, they're blue too. Look at there. See?
Yeah. Well,
Andrew, wear your blue glasses.
I got nothing.
Are you blue? So it just. The opportunities grew more and more, and then getting to go to Russia so many times to conduct, that just touched my heart, touched their heart, because even though they couldn't speak English, I learned enough Russian to be able to conduct rehearsals, and a few of them could speak a little bit of English, and these were professional bands, and when they could come up after a concert and try to say what goosebumps were from the music or tears from the music, and it just became sounds like a love fest, wasn't it? But it was, it was making music through, even though without the language happening all that much. So
what years were you going to Russia?
1999 was the first time I went, and then I went until about 2005 or 6 would have been my last time there, and so I'd been 11 times during that time, and I could have gone at least twice that many times, but I had a real gig back home, and I felt really strongly about me conducting rehearsals of the wind ensemble and band back home. So when I would go there, it would be during a semester break in January, and then as soon as classes were over in May, those would be the 2 times that I'd be able to conduct those ensembles. And my colleagues would come back being all spring break. Colleagues come back from spring break being all rested, and I'd be trudging in from just getting off the airplane and having conducted a few concerts there. But that was a real kick, and I had some health issues which made me stop in 1996, because if I was going to have health issues, I just felt better being here. But that's under control now, so it's good.
Good.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So I need to take just a moment to thank Parker Mouthpieces for providing the hosting for the Brass Junkies. Parker Mouthpieces offers fine customizable component mouthpieces for horn, trombone, euphonium, and tuba, including the Andrew Hitz Artist Model Tuba mouthpiece and the Lance LaDuke Model Euphonium mouthpiece. You can find out more at parkermouthpieces.com or follow them on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. And also, I have a funny story about Mr. Michael Parker of Parker Mouthpieces. You were talking about being in the second grade and carrying your euphonium or baritone, whichever it was, across town, and how you had to keep putting it down because it was so heavy. Well, Michael Parker and I went to Northwestern University together as undergraduates, and he got a couch from someone, and I told him that I would help him move his couch, but that was before I learned that it was like a mile away and that he did not have any vehicle. So he was actually looking for me to help him carry a couch for a mile. And but like once he got me there, I was like, sure, man. So we were carrying this through downtown Evanston, and like especially towards the end, we were getting tired because it was a heavy couch. About every second block, we just put the couch down, and then we just sat down on the couch in the middle of downtown Evanston while cars were driving by looking at these two weirdos sitting on the couch. And we were just completely looked like we were in our living room, and then we'd get up and carry it another couple blocks, and then we'd stop, and then we'd chill out again. And so I'm sure it was cute to have a second grader carrying an instrument that was too large for them across town. We were just weirding people out by sitting on a couch in the middle of downtown Evanston. There's my story.
I get it, but it never occurred to me to sit on this euphonium case.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Would have been nicer. So I'm afraid we're going to run out of time because there's a lot of things I want to talk to you about. Could you talk about how you ended? So you did your undergrad at Baldwin-Wallace, and then was both your master's and your doctorate at Indiana, or where was your master's?
Yes, I went. Both. My master's was at Indiana University, Bloomington. I always say Bloomington, not to be confused, because I live so close to IUP and have so many friends there.
That's otherwise known as Indiana University of Indiana.
Yeah.
Yeah, that too. When Bobby Knight was there, that was
yeah, that's right.
Yeah, so
he was first
yes, I went straight after I was done with my undergrad. I went to Indiana to get a master's, and I remember Charles Gorham.
This is in euphonium, not in conducting.
Euphonium in music education.
Okay.
Yes, both of those. So I remember Charles Gorham, who was a trumpet teacher extraordinaire at Baldwin-Wallace and brass choir director, asked me at the beginning of the fall semester, my senior year, what I was going to do the next year, and like a whatever. I said, well, I don't know. And so he had said, well, why don't you consider going to Indiana University? And I didn't realize it at the time, but he had accepted the position of trumpet professor at Indiana and brass choir director. And so that worked out very well because I made connections at that time. And so after I was done with the master's, then I was offered the opportunity to continue straight on for my doctorate. But I knew that I had my master's in music education, and I wanted to get some experience because I thought there's nothing like a doctoral degree in music education without having any experience.
Right.
So I turned that down, and then probably 4 or 5 years later, then I had the opportunity again, and so that's when I went on for the doctorate, and so that was a 2-year process, where the master's was a 1 year, including summer process of taking full credit. But then again, you make the great associations there. Henry Charles Smith, recently late Henry Charles Smith. Within the last month. And so it's a beautiful service. If you look it up on YouTube, it's just a beautiful service. But in 1 year's time, what a powerful influence that guy had on my life as a musician, as a person. And it was through him that I was awarded it's a highly coveted performer's certificate at Indiana University. That it doesn't matter what your major is, but you just go through the process with your recital. And Mr. Smith had said to me, this is performer certificate quality, and wondered if I would want to pursue that. It's kind of an interesting story, but I don't know. Well, I'm going to tell it anyway because it does totally pertain to euphonium and Indiana University. When I was ecstatic to see that Demondre Thurman, is the guy there now for euphonium, because that there was. I studied with Henry Charles Smith, that he was had been principal trombone with the Philadelphia Orchestra, and then also played euphonium beautifully, as on that famous recording with the three brass sections from that Gabriele recording.
Yeah.
So anyway, but Mr. Smith had told me, he said, you have to get, at the final stage, you have to get 2/3 of the votes of the faculty from each. You have one representative from orchestral conducting, one representative from the chair of the brass faculty, the chair of all these various areas. So there were 9 of them. So he said, you have to get 7. And he said, I can tell you right away, there will be 2 who will vote against you because you play euphonium, because it's not considered an orchestral instrument. It doesn't get respect that it should. And so just know those 2 are going to vote against you no matter what. And so he said, the other 7 you have to have. And so at that final stage, I got all 7 of the other folks, and that was the first time the euphonium had been awarded a performer certificate in the history of IU.
Wow.
And I know there've been a couple since then, and so that leads me to another story that I think maybe I'll just let go. But anyway, unless whatever. No,
I'm intrigued now.
Well,
piqued.
just,
Is that the right? My curiosity is piqued. I think I'm using that word correctly.
Well, let's just say that Charles Webb, who was dean of the School of Music at that time, well, actually it was later, went to bat for me as a euphonium player, or went to bat for the euphonium, I should say, which I happened to play, because it wasn't being respected even how it should have been. I'm sorry, I'm kind of leaving that blank.
No,
but
that's okay.
Yeah.
So anyway, so not very many people know that, and I'm going to. When I see Demondre in person, I was so excited because of that. They actually hired somebody when the euphonium wasn't getting the respect that it should have gotten. So nobody was happier than I. Well, maybe Demondre and his mom, but that was pretty special. That was really awesome. Special.
People don't understand, even still today, like how hard it is to win a concerto competition, even as a trumpet player, like at a like wide swath of schools, because of gatekeepers who have decided that that the piece had to be, that people that consider Stravinsky modern music, which is like it's like a century ago. And not all of it, but don't email me. But anyway, email Michael Parker if you want to. Always, any complaints, go to parkermouthpieces.com, hit contact, and then ask him why you didn't get a truck to move that couch. But the the euphonium still has it worse than everywhere else, because there is no endowed euphonium chair for the Pittsburgh Symphony, right? I mean, which is not a slight, but some people will view it as a slight because they like to keep things in boxes. But then you add when this was, and then the fact that you're a woman, and then it's euphonium, and it's just it's so cool that you had to go 7 for 7 in a system which was designed for people, and that you knew you had 2 no's going into it, and that you still did it. That's awesome. Yeah. That's great.
There is this.
Well, thanks, but it was. Go ahead.
Well, you just seem to have a tenacity that I think has carried the day for you, because you're I think being way more polite than you probably have any reason to about things that might have stopped a lesser soul along the way.
Did you see that smile she just?
I did.
That said more than I could in an hour with words. That was awesome.
Yeah. So, but once I was soloing at the New York Brass Conference for Scholarships, which is probably younger than, I mean, that you guys probably might not even know about that, but Charles Colin used to have a great conference at the Roosevelt Hotel every year. And the way I got to perform there once was I had gone to a conference, a music ed conference in New York State, and I'd had a couple of drinks and I thought, well, there's Charles Colin and Don Butterfield. They're both involved. I think I'll go up and ask them if I can play. So what are they going to say?
Love it.
So that was the first opportunity there. But anyway, the point of that is I played several more years there, and then it kind of went defunct. But I remember a female low brass player coming up to me after a performance, and she said to me, "How does it feel to be a female brass player?" And truly, I was 30 years old. This is probably hard to believe, but I didn't think of myself as a female brass player, and I hadn't really approached even any reason to that I knew of, because I had always gotten first chair anywhere of any of the competitive bands in the country. And so it just never occurred to me. And so after that, I became more aware. And while there may have been instances, I do know of one where I was not hired at a university, not to be named, for a euphonium trombone position, because I also was a trombonist, secondarily because I knew that was a good thing for me to do. But only years later did a person who is my friend come up to me and say, "I just want you to know that this is the reason you didn't get the job there, is because you were a female, and we could only envision that, the whole faculty could only envision that to be in a male position." Now, so that case I do know, but I was so, I guess, tenacious is the word, that I just pushed forward, and with great, just new people to meet, and bringing, when I do the low brass festivals at my college in Albany, bringing somebody like Joe Alessi up to do a master class with the students, and getting all the people from around the area to come. And then another year, maybe Ron Barron, and another year, they weren't just trombone people, but Ithaca, well, Mark Lusk was Ithaca, John Marsalis, and so forth. But and then I'd always have a low brass. I'd always have a massed ensemble, because how do you get people there? Because they're going to get the opportunity to play in a massed ensemble. So it was amateurs and even professionals would show up and just have a great day. And then I remember when I took the gig at Montclair State University, I was trying to recruit this tuba player from Albany. And she had decided on this college where I had been. She said, because they have great low brass festivals and I want to go there. I thought, well, I'm the one that put them on. I'm not there anymore, but you go right ahead, whatever. So that was a recruiting failure, but rather a little funny story that went along with it. But I had so many opportunities, thanks to Harvey Phillips, who I studied with on my doctorate, and he didn't want to hear me play euphonium either.
Really?
Yeah, he only wanted me to learn to play tuba. And honest to God, I don't know how that man could stand sitting through my lessons, because a lot of euphonium players can do a nice job on tuba. And I even bought Marty Erickson's, I can't remember what tuba it was, years ago. And I was horrible. And so, Harvey would be sitting at his desk and writing notes and taking care of business. And I felt sorry for him, but that was just a summer that I was associated with him. And then, with Henry Smith, a year, and getting opportunities and Harvey Phillips only studying with him for a summer, and created tons of opportunities from playing in Carnegie Music Hall, right, as part of the Canadian Brass concert. And the Canadian Brass at that time had instruments. It was all part of the Christmas event. The Canadian Brass got instruments built for them in the shape of euphonium and tuba, and then played some things along with us. I mean, that must have been some expense, but it was just great fun. So just these people creating well, that's the title of that article in the journal, is creating opportunities, because I used to think that I played euphonium, and once I won that performer certificate at IU, people would come knocking at my door wanting me to perform all over the world. Well, maybe that's the case for some people, but it was not the case when you're trying to, begin and get your name out there. So if you want the opportunities, you make them, and take advantage of the ones that other people create for you, and don't be afraid of it.
I want to unpack that actually some more. But first, Lance, I was wondering if you might want to talk about our friends at Houghton Horns.
Yeah, I've been meaning to tell you. I keep forgetting, because the last time we talked, I forgot to tell you that Houghton Horns aims to spread the joy of music through providing the highest level of products, services, and resources to the brass playing community.
That's nice.
Did you know that? I couldn't remember if I told you that.
Don't think so.
Did I tell you that they have free domestic shipping on all new items, excluding sheet music, and free domestic returns on new instruments and mouthpieces when you order online at houghtonhorns.com?
Never came up.
Really? I had to have told you that they do free equipment consultations, in person or virtual, available with their team of professional musicians. You can schedule yours at houghtonhorns.com. No?
That's amazing.
You can watch over 200 unique videos on Houghton Horns' YouTube channel, which is youtube.com/ is the one, depends on if you're looking at your screen. Anyway, Houghton Horns on YouTube. And if you, and that's,
please
could be a dance move.
Please tell me one of the videos is Mary Ann torturing Harvey Phillips with brutal tuba playing in a lesson. Is there video of that? Maybe on the Houghton Horns site? Go there and search for it.
If you enter the promo code Junkies at online checkout, you'll receive 10% off your purchase from houghtonhorns.com. Some limitations apply. Very special thanks to Houghton Horns for being a sponsor of the Brass Junkies.
My favorite part was when she said, I felt sorry for him.
I know.
Oh, that's funny. So this is such a. I host another podcast, which I'm sure Marianne has listened to all 245 episodes of, called The Entrepreneurial Musician, and I talk a lot about creating your own opportunities, and so I just wanted to give you a chance to unpack a little bit more, especially since that article is behind a paywall for ITEA members. Not asking you to sum up the whole article, but can you just talk a little? It's obvious that you're passionate about it. Can you talk a little bit more about being proactive and creating opportunities for yourself as a musician, but specifically as a low brass player too?
Yeah, my mind was going all the time. I mean, my parents lived about 7.5 or 8 hours from Albany, New York. And so the drive back and forth, for various holidays and visitations, I would just keep a pad and paper and drive on that New York thruway and just write down, okay, this is a possibility of something to do, and this is possibility. And in order to do that, I should invite so-and-so and maybe commission because there's so many people that just want to write and have their music be heard, that you can sometimes get it for nothing. And I would often get pieces that people had written for you, composers had written for Euphonium, so then maybe creating an event around that, or any kind of festival that I would do. And specifically, the real start was the Low Brass Festival that I would do each year, and then making the connections with those people might then create another opportunity. If I had invited so-and-so to come to my university, then often there was a reciprocal thing that just grew out of it. Or the largest event that I created was the Colonial Euphonium and Tuba Institute in 1996, because and that all those low brass festivals that I had done just were practice putting together. They were just a day-long festival, but practice for putting together this week-long event. And through all, whether it was setting up a tour during spring semester at various universities. I mean, that's something that we all do to create opportunities. But then creating this Colonial Euphonium and Tuba Institute, I thought, first thing I'm going to do is go to 3 or 4 of the most prominent tuba and euphonium players that I know personally. And once I get them involved, then you know that the other people are going to want to be part of that, other well-known euphonium and tuba professionals, pedagogues, and so forth, because you know how that world is, that if so-and-so is going to be involved. So the first 2 people I contacted, I just happened to go, Sam Palafian was playing in Saratoga. And so I went up to hear him and took a couple of friends with me and shared this idea with him. And he says, I'm in, count me in. And of course, Harvey Phillips, that I contacted next, he says, I'm there. So then you go to Stephen Mead, and that had grown out of, yeah, I'll tell you that. So Stephen Mead then, well, yes. And then I was able to get support from several companies, and then the same deal works with them. If they know Boozy and Hawks is going to throw in $4,000, then maybe this place will throw in, and what do you get? Okay, you're getting this advertisement. And I guess what I did was then the Tuba Euphonium Journal once a year would come out with the whole list of membership, which now, of course, is online, but 1996. So I took 3 years in the planning of this. I contacted one prominent person in each country and asked them to disseminate information for this. And then I already would say, well, Sam Palafian said yes, and Harvey Phillips said yes, and now Earl Lauder said yes, and Stephen Mead said yes, and the Air Force Tuba Euphonium Quartet and the Navy Tuba Euphonium Quartet. That would be Lance LaDuke. He dressed a little differently, if I remember, at that time. And
same attitude.
Same.
True.
Can't wash that stink off.
And then that would bring us. So Roger Barron did some performance of something, and then of course my own guys in the Colonial Tuba Quartet with Gary Bird and Jay Hildebrandt and Greg Fritz. They were all part of it, and so that happened. Gene Picorni, how could I forget Gene? As it ended up, Sam wasn't able to come, but that's okay because he said yes first, and it all built from there. And then that created an opportunity for me, because Stephen Mead was doing several years. He did a tuba euphonium event in Birmingham or Manchester.
Manchester, maybe.
I think maybe it was. Okay, so then he invited me over there to perform. So there's another opportunity. And then I got interviewed by the BBC. Well, that's pretty cool. And then as you're still trying to push ahead, you get that on your resume. And then somewhere else, Russia. Well, that was a whole different thing, but getting interviewed there and you see, Russian broadcast. So it's letting each thing that you do, making sure that it grows into something else, because you follow up afterwards with a letter. Thank you. Your group was fantastic. Everybody likes to hear that, and to play in a group and say, well, Joe Alessi played in with this whole low brass ensemble. That's pretty cool too for these people. So it gets them enthused. I gave myself another chill. Ooh. So, the same thing with, yes, I underwrote my own first recording, and I underwrote my euphonium out on a limb because at that time, how are you going to have people hear you or know what you're capable of doing? And I remember the most challenging thing from the second euphonium, or the CD, the first one was called Really Creative Title. And that was a 33 and a third, right about the last month that people were making those kind of albums.
Last month.
It was called Marianne Craig Euphonium. How creative is that?
You can buy it right now on eBay for $36.95.
That one? The 33 and a third?
Yep.
Well, I threw a whole box of them out once when I figured nobody was going to.
You gotta go to eBay.
You could, if you put the whole box on eBay, then they each would have gone for like 30 cents. So
well, it's in the dumpster in Kinnelon, New Jersey. So that was quite a few years ago.
It's probably still there.
I announced it, and then you should have seen all these musicians came running to the dumpster and jumped in. Yep. No, that's not what happened at all. But anyway, the most difficult thing about the second CD was called Out on a Limb, was hanging my, at that time, $6,000 Wilson on a tree and hoping that it didn't fall and getting the picture taken. And at that time, and I wish now that would have been in color instead of black and white, but when you're underwriting your own, that makes a big difference when you're doing a big print out of that. And then you send them free to everybody, and then all these other opportunities. When I was going on sabbatical and wanting to play euphonium recitals, this was probably 1993. I remember sending hundreds of letters out asking if I could come perform at their universities. And I had only heard back from one in the first couple of months. And I complained to Charles Colin. I mean, he had given me many opportunities at the brass conference. And he said, no, you look at it, you got one back. Not that you didn't hear back from these other people. And that first one was from Richard, I wish I could remember his last name, West Virginia trombone teacher, West Virginia University, taught there for many years. And I feel really badly that I don't remember his last name right. But he said yes. And then it wasn't long after that I heard from Memorial University.
Richard Powell.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Richard Powell, because he wrote back. And then finally I heard back from Memorial University. So what a cool opportunity to go up to the place that's the farthest east on the North American continent and watch the low brass teacher there go feed a wild fox, just something that he does every day when you walk out to that point. I mean, that was really cool.
I'm sorry, what?
And then creating another opportunity, I commissioned Tony Plogue to write Erica and the Euphonium. It's for small orchestra and euphonium, and it can be called Eric and the Euphonium if a guy plays it. And so I have those parts, I have that score, and so the premiere was to be Arizona State University with Henry Smith conducting, because Henry was there for a couple of years. And prior to that, we understand that you always do premieres, Winston Morris at Tennessee Tech. And so we did that at Tennessee Tech, and then was a big snowstorm in 1993. So that's when it was, in March. But that's just another example of creating opportunities. Yes, I paid Tony Plogue to write this piece. Now, it's never gotten performance. I almost had it with the Winnipeg Symphony with Bramwell Tovey was conductor. Then he had written back, and then I can't remember what fell through that it didn't happen there. So it's just thinking and talking to other people that I remember Jerry Junkin, University of Texas, Austin, saying, if you want to be a great so-and-so, you hang out with the great so-and-sos. But, of course, he said, if you want to be a great golfer, hang out with the great golfers. So it's hanging out with Harvey Phillips, who I made, even though I felt my mind never stopped and I never quit working, he made me look like I slept all the time, because Harvey was just being around those kind of people. Sorry, I'm not
No,
interviewing. I'm just
no,
babbling.
it's perfect because the two things I wanted to make sure that we talked about, you hit both of, which was the Colonial Tuba Quartet and your recordings, because at that time, tuba quartets had been around, but to have one as active as yours was, and then euphonium recordings, at that time, when I was coming up as a student, there were the Falcone records. There was Art Lehman had, there was just like a handful of things. And so Harold Brash, yep. And Paul Drosty, a couple of folks. But for you to be adding to that was really important to me coming up. And actually, Out on a Limb has one of the favorite titles of any piece of music I've ever heard, which is Concerto for Al's Breakfast.
Well, Dave Baldwin was a year older than I was. We were at Baldwin Wallace together, and then I knew he'd eventually gotten to the gig in Minnesota, and so I just asked him if he'd be interested in writing for this CD, and I thought it was a kick because Al's Breakfast is a restaurant out there in Minnesota, and and creating your own opportunities. I mean, my quartet and I got to play at the conference in Japan. 1990, and I had Chitati Kagawa was the organizer, and he had contacted me about playing solo program there. I think I sent materials to him, and then he contacted, and so I thought, well, Japan's a long way away. I'd love to do that, but I said, may I bring my quartet? And he said, oh, that'd be great. And so then I thought, oh, I don't have a quartet, but
can I bring friends? No, I need friends.
Can I bring friends? Well, Greg Fritz and I had talked about a couple of years before at a conference in Boston. And so we thought, well, Harvey had created an opportunity for us at Carnegie at the recital hall. And it was kind of fun hanging out with Gary Bird and Jay Hildebrandt. Plus, I felt pretty safe walking in New York City with Gary on one side and Jay on the other side. Yeah. And so I gave them a call and said, okay, so we have a gig. Would you like to be in a quartet? And that, of course, Greg and I had talked about it before. And so we kind of often met in Albany because Greg lived in Boston and Gary at IUP and Jay down in Delaware. So I was kind of the center place, and we got some guys to write pieces for us to premiere there, including Dave Baker from Indiana University, writing a piece for tuba quartet and tuba solo, with Harvey being the solo. That was, and rehearsing in the bathroom once we got to Japan. It was pretty resonant. It was the only place there wasn't any room to rehearse, and those were our only rehearsals. My head's still from 1990. But again, it's creation of opportunity.
Where did you find a bathroom in Japan large enough to rehearse, even to warm up by yourself?
Well, if you use stalls, at least you have seats in there. No, I'm just kidding about that. But there actually was quite a large one there. But when you speak about,
that's an album cover. Is like if all the doors open, and it's like like the four of you each in a different stall.
I'd rather have the doors closed, but you just see the tops of the bells.
There is that, but maybe how tall Jay Hildebrandt is. And when we were out eating a meal somewhere, he walked into the bathroom and got this huge black and blue right on his forehead because that's how tall it was walking through that door. And when you say picture, that reminds me that I did get a call once to actually play without creating my own opera. No, I got more than that. But Joe Alessi had called me because Summit Brass was doing the Radhavara Requiem in Our Time. So I got to go play the Radhavara with Summit Brass, at which time that made connection with a whole Schmidt load of really, good players, great players. And that's where I ran into Tony Plogue and asked him to write the solo with orchestra. And then, of course, I ran into Dave Hickman, who organized, he was the organizer of it. And then, I don't know if you guys know this CD. Oh man, Dave Gannett has 3 looks like derelict guys in a bar.
Well,
Well, they're
someone...
sprawled out on couches.
Okay.
Yeah. And then Dave Hickman called and asked, I mean, they look like, I mean, I wish I could remember the name. Oh, Hell, Tubas from Hell. I think that was...
Sounds right.
I think it was Tubas from Hell, because I have a t-shirt.
That one?
Exactly. Yeah, Dave Hickman, as a result of Summit Brass, called me and asked if he could have my picture on the wall of that CD. And I said, as long as you acknowledge me on the inside and that you don't say anything like negative about whatever. I mean, it was pretty goofy picture because big glasses.
Oh, I loved that thing.
There it is. I see it, and then I see your photo up at the top.
Didn't
your picture,
were you holding your horn? And did you have like a wig on or something?
I did not have it. That was my real hair.
That was your
How
hair.
Disgusting was that? I mean, it was curly. It was just like, oh my gosh.
I think the word is offensive.
yeah, I think so. I think it was. So see, then I get on all the picture on all those. Yeah. So he did put my name on but it's a matter of connections, then following up on the connections. I probably wrote to every guy in Summit Brass afterwards. It's great to see Ralph Sauer. I mean, you think, yeah, Gene Picorni there. So
sorry, I have to do this. I Tubas from Hell on Amazon because I wanted to look at the thing, and they're all 5-star reviews, and then there's 1 star, so I of course had to read it. And the name of the review is from Brassman54 is Tubas from Hell, and then it says it stinks. Sounds are not crisp and clean. All the other reviews are 5 stars. It sounds like he has a bath towel stuffed down the bell. If you are a tuba player or was one, do not touch this with a 20-foot pole. That's all. The rest of them are 5 stars, and they're like, "Oh, my kid loves this." It's like all awesome, and then there's always one Brassman 54. Yeah, who
see how much that costs on Amazon, Andrew?
$20.
Oh, so that's a bargain because the one I just pulled up is $47.
Oh,
so
Marianne, you're missing out. There's some. You're leaving dollars on the table. I
got to look at that. And I need to mention my quartet CD too, because Sam helped us with that.
Please.
The Spectrophonics. And that's, we did the recording wherever Sam was. We did it in Boston, but maybe we did it at Berkeley. I don't remember, but Sam came up because Greg was head of composition at Berkeley. So yeah, I just want to mention because that was great fun to do. And the only thing I didn't really love about it was Colonial Tuba Quartet. I mean, I'm a euphonium player and I like to call it Colonial Tuba Euphonium or Euphonium Tuba. And you may note that when I did that International Institute, of which we had 7 countries represented in 1996, I called it the Colonial Euphonium and Tuba Institute because I wanted the word euphonium to come first. And I should also mention when the International Women's Brass Congress was first formed by Susan Slaughter, she called me to be on the board. And I said I would to represent the euphonium because I wanted to make sure the euphonium was represented. It wasn't female euphonium. I wanted euphonium to be represented. And then I remember at one time they were commissioning a brass quintet, and I brought up about the euphonium. They were commissioning a piece to be written for brass quintet, and I had brought up about the euphonium. And I think at that time then a euphonium solo was commissioned, but it was mainly because I wanted to push ahead for euphonium, and just not call it a tenor tuba or not call it a tuba, or as Harvey used to say about the tuba was a castrati trumpet. No, the other way. A trumpet is a castrati tuba.
A tuba is just a trumpet with a bath towel shoved down the bell. So
yeah, I like that.
Yeah, that is pretty good.
I wonder what the bath towel looked like after it came out.
Speaking of a bath towel being shoved down the bell, that reminds me of our good friend Jim Nova.
You know, the Mary Papert School of Music at Duquesne University is a longtime sponsor of our show, and we want to encourage you to click on the link in the show notes to go find out all the ways you can be involved in music at Duquesne University. Fantastic faculty, great ensembles there. James Gourlay is actually now the director of bands there. I don't know if you knew that, Andrew.
I did.
He teaches tuba and euphonium. There's Mark Houghton of Houghton Horns.
I knew Gourlay when he was a nobody, just for the record.
And Zach Smith teach horn. We've got Chad Winkler teaches trumpet, and then some guy teaches trombone. And we want to encourage you, like I said, to visit that site. And if you have a chance, thank them for being longtime sponsors of our show. And a very special thanks to Jim Refrigerator Nova for making that possible.
It's about the refrigerator part now. I love Jim, and I love all of his Star Wars stuff. He's crazy, just busy, cool. Do I want to know the refrigerator thing, or is that for off air?
It's for off air.
Okay, good.
Because I need some time to make up a good story, because I come up with a new one every time.
The refrigerator was never the same. Never the
Okay,
same.
just
It
'cause he
voided the
cool
warranty
dude.
instantly, which
Well, it's true.
Yeah. So we are going to. This has been awesome, as I knew that it would. I have to mention in the actual interview that I know Marianne goes by Marianne. She doesn't go by Mary. She goes by Marianne. And in one of the emails, because I was banging it out on my phone right before bed, and it might have even been one of those where like the phone, like Gmail, like fills it in for you. But I wrote Dear Mary, and and then she. Which is exactly what you should do anytime you feel like it, but especially when someone's going to be interviewing you, it's probably good to be like, actually, I don't go by Mike. My name is Michael, right? So she said, it's like very polite, but like a smiley face, like my name's actually Marianne. And I then, and she threatened me with like, I don't even remember how it all went down, but basically, I told her that I was thinking about. She said that sometimes it makes her curse when people call her Mary, and then I said that I was thinking about actually intentionally calling her Mary in the interview, and then she wrote back that she was going to. This is my favorite part. That she was going to brainstorm curse words so that she didn't repeat herself.
I did that, and you should see the part of the email that I X'd out and didn't send to you.
That's like, we should all save the emails or parts of emails that we don't save, and it should auto send as soon as we take our last breath. It should just be like a an information dump, like right away. It's like, oh, did you hear about so and so? It's like, oh yeah, I got some emails from him. Yeah, like I heard. All right, I got it.
Yeah.
We're about to have Marianne, not Mary. Stick around for the bonus episode, which you can access if you are a Patreon patron. We've got some new ones recently. Thank you for signing up. And there's access instantly to tons of bonus materials, including lots of bonus episodes with the last, I don't know how many guests, almost 50 guests now, and counting. But my two favorite show notes for this so far are one is the time she got called to play with Summit Brass. I like that one. And then the other is nothing like triple tonguing in church to get people into a praying mood.
Great.
Well,
all right.
This has been wonderful.
I need 1 second.
Okay, please.
And that is to thank you for doing this. This has been an important one for me, and I've been bugging Andrew to get you booked for this. You are, whether you know it or not, and shame on me if you don't, to me, you're a very, very important person in euphonium history and lineage. And when I was coming up as a student and as a young professional, your name was one that kept coming up via the quartet, via your solo recordings, via your tours, and the things that you organized. And so shame on me for not getting you on sooner. And I was super excited to have you on as an example to my current students, and hope to pay forward all the stuff that you've done that's impacted me. So thank you very much. I don't often get sincere on these shows, but this was an important time to do so.
I appreciate that a lot, Lance, because once I've been retired, and I got so involved with the Pittsburgh Symphony and raising funds for them that I really am out of the tuba euphonium world. So there comes a point when I haven't been involved that I think, is anybody going to even remember any kind of impact that I would have had? And really, it did my heart so well to know that you were going to do this. But what was really so special for me was when Adam Fry had a panel maybe a year ago, May or so, and he asked me to be part of this panel. It was a virtual one, of course, and it was after that Deanna and I talked, and that I was kind of saying the same things to her, just thinking, I don't know if anybody even knows who I am, and not that that matters, but I wanted to have some impact on the low brass world. And Deanna said, I need a project this summer to be working on, and that's when that whole article thing started last summer, and it just was a weight that lifted off of me, because once that came out, I thought at least somebody will have some kind of knowledge, because, and I didn't do it for any of that, but I never stopped working to get ahead for the euphonium, and so I appreciate that. And then of course I've heard from a lot of other people since then, and phone calls when that article came out, and students and so forth. So it means a lot to me too, because I had Leonard Falcone, I had Harold Brash. Those were the two recordings, and well, I had 3 of Leonard Falcone, and I took, I won't say more about it. I will say I took a 10-minute lesson from him once when I was in 9th grade, and that was great fun. So I'll quit, because I know you want to get to this other part, but okay, go away.
And I will, no, that was...
And I didn't get to call you Perv, and I was ready to call you Perv. And Lance, when you said my name kept coming up, I was wondering if it had to do with burping, and that my name would come up. But no, I know you were sincere. So thank you.
That's it. I finally got a sincere moment in 2021, and that was it. So
I was going to say,
just under the wire.
I hope you enjoyed that, Marianne, because we probably lost like 10 Patreon patrons, because that was very off-brand for Lance. They're not here for him being sincere or showing any human side. Him. Yeah, he's here for like stories about how he tries to like run 20 miles an hour and falls and breaks his face, and things like that. That's
he never got over that, did he?
That's more of a... That's more on brand.
Miles an hour, by the way. It was my shoulder.
I will, but you were trying to get to 20, right?
I was trying to get to 20.
I want to be clear, you didn't. I want to say, people do need to know who you are, not for any ego reasons, but just because you did lots of cool stuff.
It matters.
And that's not overstating what we're doing here with the Brass Junkies, but that's one of the reasons why we do this thing, is so that people everybody's pulled in so many directions, right? You just said that you had 3 Falcone, albums, and anyone of a certain age who's a euphonium player had Falcone albums, right? It's just everything is so dispersed now, which isn't good, it isn't bad, it just is, that it's really possible there is no Falcone now. I mean, not even DeMondre, not even David Childs, not even is that universal, because there's so many different options to go with. And it's just easy for a lot of people coming up to not know about there's somebody who's listening to this who did not have any idea who you were before, and is already, while listening to us, going down a bunch of rabbit holes, which is going to make them a better euphonium player or musician or whatever. Mm-hmm. So it's important that people know who you are. So, all right, enough sincerity out of me. Thanks. So that's it. We've still got a couple more interviews to do this year. They're just going to be completely vapid. There's going to be nothing of any substance at all.
Good. I want to know who they are. So I can warn them that they're called vapid.
We've used no, not them, us anyway.
Oh,
all right.
Okay.
Hey,
okay. I figured that.
Behave, Mary. Behave. All right. So,
Mary. Oh my God.
So that reminds me that we need to. Okay. You already called me a perv, so all right.
Well, that was nice. You didn't hear this one.
All right, we're going to go to the bonus episode now. Lance, anything else?
No. Not a thing.
All right. Well, on behalf of Lance and the perv, thank you, Marianne, for joining us. And that is going to do it for this episode of The Brass Junkies.
You've been listening to The Brass Junkies on the Pedal Note Media Podcast Network. If you would like to hear the bonus episode featuring today's guest, please visit patreon.com/thebrassjunkies to learn how you can support the show and instantly access all bonus materials, as well as gain access to a special patron-only Facebook group. The Brass Junkies is produced by the amazing, wonderful, and truly inspirational Will Houchin. The theme music was composed by Fernando Dados and performed by Andrew Hitz and Lance LaDuke. LaDuke. We are at Pray for Jens on Twitter and Instagram and have a Facebook page at facebook.com/prayforjens. You can find out more about the Brass Junkies and all the other Pedal Note Media podcasts at pedalnotemedia.com. This has been a presentation of the Pedal Note Media Podcast Network.